Good afternoon, everybody who is here with me at this time of the day. It's Kiev, the internal education. We're going to start in a minute. So could you please write hello or a plus or just a smile to let me see that you can hear me all right. Okay. Lutski's here. You can write where you're from, by the way. Chernigiv. It's always good to know where our participants are from. Kyiv Oblast, Bucha, Odessa, thank you all for finding time and just being here with us today. Boguslav, Pірсон, Gostomel. It's always good to see people from all our country. So, and you know what I love about webinars, then it's, a place where we can all get together and share some ideas. All right, Alexandria is here. Kiev, Vinnytsia. Okay, so I guess there are no problems with the sound. That's great. It's 6 p.m. sharp, so I think we can start. Okay, so if we have not met before, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Olena Mihodui. I'm an academic consultant for the company which is called Internal Education. We exclusively represent the biggest educational brand in the world, Pірсон, here in Ukraine, and it's not only Pірson resources, it's also digital solutions, teacher training, teacher support. We also work with students. We've got lots of partner schools. We've got partners. It's not just schools. We work with universities, with kindergartens. So, and we love what we do. So thank you for being here with us today once again. We continue our series of webinars, which we started in autumn. So it's already winter, New Year is coming, but we continue the webinars. But these webinars are a little bit different from what we usually do, because usually the internal education conducts webinars which touch upon some aspects of ELT teaching methodology. But these webinars, mine and my colleagues, Yulia Kianets, who you will have the chance to see this coming Friday again, these webinars are about Pírson's brand new products, which we love, which we have just recently seen, and which I think will be a huge success with students and teachers next academic year. So two wonderful courses for the upper secondary sector. So those of you who work with students of the 9th year, 8th, 9th year, 10th year, 11th year at school, these courses might be interesting for you. So I hope you'll find some useful information in my webinar today. So two courses, it's Focus second edition. Focus is not a new name here in Ukraine, so we've got a wonderful second edition of this bestseller. And there is another course which I'm sure you will love. It's a course for high achievers, for really ambitious students and teachers. It's called High Notes, and my colleague Yulia Kianets will be here with you this Friday at 5 p.m. So please do register and learn more about this brand new resource called High Note. I will talk today to you a little bit about one of the best books I've used for teaching teenagers. And I'm still in love with this book. And when I saw this first sample of the second edition of Focus, I thought nothing would be better than Focus, I mean the old edition. But the second edition is just, it does have something to offer. So, and today, during this session, I will try to very briefly tell you about some of the features which are unique, which are new, and which your students will definitely love. And I'm sure you will love as well if you teach all the teenagers, because I know what it's like. They're very difficult to motivate. They're very, they're a challenge, but if you manage to make your students like your subject, then you will love the lessons with teenagers. Okay, so just a very, very brief look at how it all started. I see that some people are writing here, and it's so nice to see that there are some Focus users who are already using Focus and who are here today with me probably to learn more about what the second edition has to offer. All right, so Focus, the first edition of this wonderful resource, appeared in Ukraine some years ago. I still remember it was, I think, the beginning of 2016 when we received this parcel from London with the first few sample copies of Focus, and it was an immediate success. It was so bright, it was more than a teacher could expect, you know, so it was very up to date at that time. I remember we Googled and checked lots of facts from Focus, and like all people, all facts, all the information was real, was very up to date, was relevant to students' lives, to our lives. And the authors of this resource, there is this wonderful tandem of two great people, great teachers. They are not just material writers, they are teachers with many years of experience, Vaughan Jones and Sue Kay. Vaughan Jones came to Ukraine, by the way, a couple of times, and maybe we have people here who attended some of his events because he's a charming man. He's a very interesting presenter, and he's a person you can learn a lot from. But these two people, as soon as the first edition started marching around the globe, because Focus is popular not only in Ukraine, Focus has been a bestseller in all continents, so in South America, in Asia, in the United States, and so on, in Europe, in Israel, in Turkey, well, lots of places in Ukraine where Focus is still famous. So these two people started working on the second edition of Focus as soon as we received the first one. That's how the books are written. It does take time. But what's interesting, some people remember him. That's great. I remember Vaughan Jones as well. So he's a nice, personality. The author started writing on the second edition of Focus, but the most important thing, throughout these years, they have been collecting feedback from Focus users. And that's something which not everybody does. I mean, not all authors think about that. So they decided to keep the things in this new edition which people who use Focus like and want to stay, and to add something which, well, Focus users wanted or what was missing, and so on. So right now in this new edition of Focus, well, what you'll see, I hope that you'll see this book quite soon. You will see actually it's a collective effort of this wonderful team of authors and the Focus users who were contributing and giving feedback. So I love this fact about the second edition, and that's why I decided to share it with you. So the authors cared about what people thought about their book. All right, so the second edition of Focus has lots to offer. Today I will try to touch upon 3 or 4 features which I think are very important if you teach all the teenagers. one more thing, the generation we teach now, of course they're upper secondary, well, students, but they are a new generation of students. If you remember yourselves when you were teenagers, I remember myself as a teenager, I was different. I received information in different ways from them. I processed information. I reacted in different ways from these modern teenagers. And maybe you can help me, by the way. I've got a question here. How do we call this new generation of people, well, our students who are now finishing school? There is this specific term. See, everybody knows the answer. You write that. Why? All right. So actually, I belong to Generation X. All right. So, or maybe Y. So if we look at the 40s, people who are in their 40s, they say it's like Y, the ending of Y at the beginning of Z. So students who are now finishing school, they're Generation Z, all right? So, and it's something which we can't change, and we will have to take into consideration, and modern resources reflect that as well. That's important. Focus comes in 5 levels, from elementary to advanced, so it's quite convenient, so everybody can find a level needed, so according to the level of your students and your needs. Okay, so the authors of Focus claim that this book will guarantee a success not only in, but also outside your classroom. Let's see how. So let's look at the features of the book, and I do hope you'll enjoy them. All right, so the first thing, and I put number 1 here because it's something which I was extremely excited about. As soon as I saw these 3 magic letters on the cover of the book, I was really, really happy because from now on, the second edition of Focus contains wonderful, the highest quality BBC video content. Pірсон as a brand is famous for its cooperation with BBC Corporation, with BBC, and we know other resources. Maybe some of you work with Wider World, which is lower secondary sector, or Speak Out. It's one of the best resources for adult learners. They come with BBC content. So from now on, Focus will contain wonderful, absolutely fascinating BBC lessons. So each unit of the book contains a proper BBC lesson. And it's not just, a video which accompanies another kind of lesson. So it's a proper lesson which is staged accordingly, because video lessons are integrated skills lessons. I love them. So video is not just, fun. It's developing listening comprehension. It's really useful. Video is important for making students think, discuss. Video can finish with, some writing activity. It's also vocabulary. It's everything if you work with the script, for example. Okay, so BBC lessons in every unit of Focus, and the content is just great. So if you like watching BBC documentaries, that's what I love doing. So it's something like this, but they're shorter, of course. What I'd like to ask you to do right now, I will let you see just a brief the introduction to one of the videos, just as a taster, to let you see what Focus BBC video lessons will be like. And there is a task for you, all right? The task is the following. So you will see a video about a in So I will now switch on to the video. And let's just try to, and you remember the task, right? So what is unusual?
My name is Jurjen Mentink. I'm a student and I'm living here in this nursing home.
This nursing home is in the Netherlands. The accommodation is free for Jurjen and 5 other students. There is one condition. He has to spend 30 hours each month with the older residents.
Okay, okay. So, students, I got some fast finishers who already, All right, so students have to interact with the elderly. All right, some hours every month. Thank you very much. Right. Actually, I loved this piece and I decided to share it with you. I think actually this is a real college. This is a real student. His name is Jurjen. And this is a real situation when I think it's wonderful, isn't it? Just to let 2 generations come together. These elderly people are probably lonely if they live in a nursing home, right? And to ask younger people to spend some time with the elderly, I think it's something invaluable. Actually, videos like this lead us, it's a different level. It's more than just language. Here we touch upon something like values, right? And something maybe even more important than learning a subject, if you wish. So I loved this video. Thank you very much for your answers. And well, you can imagine what kind of stuff and what kind of discussion it can lead to. Actually, in the book itself, the students are asked to think about places where students live in their country. So this halls of residence or dormitories, which we have here in Ukraine. They probably would discuss whether they would like to live in a place like this. Then it leads me to, imagining all these pros and cons discussions, what's good about living like that, what's not so good, and so on. So I think it's a wonderful lesson, and the good thing is that every unit will contain something like this. And of course the videos are connected with the topic of the whole unit. Tolerance, relationships between generations. Thank you very much for your ideas. I think that's important. Okay, actually, according to some recent research, there is this statistics. They say that modern teenagers, this Generation Z, they prefer learning new things with video to all other kinds of learning tools. Of course, videos are better than books or just anything else, so nothing can replace the teacher in the classroom, not even a computer, but videos will add to lessons. Videos will add some motivation, well, no doubt here, right? So that's why BBC videos are not the only kind of video which was added to this new edition of Focus. There is yet another lesson type which I find absolutely great. They're called Focus vlogs. Focus vlogs will come and will actually be linked to grammar lessons in Focus, but actually it's something more than just grammar context or practicing grammar through video. And I will explain how Focus vlogs will work. I hope you know what a vlog is. It's one of those trendy words these days. So everybody knows blog. Now we speak about vlogs. Video blog. Thank you very much. So people do that. Maybe some of you even have a vlog. I think that's great. It's one of those skills I don't have. So Great. Okay, so what focus blog lesson in focus is. So there's interviews actually with people in the streets of London, real people, different backgrounds, different accents, different faces, skin colors, which is about tolerance. Thank you very much. And people who walk around just in their business, but they are stopped and asked basic questions. Questions like, where do you live? What makes you happy? How many pairs of jeans do you have? And so on. So it's something nice, something which your students could be asked by their friend, for example. And the answers these people give are great models. Okay, so probably, especially for weaker students, right? So before setting a speaking activity or discussion, it's always a good idea to show them how other people answer the same question or discuss the same topic. I think they're wonderful. We have a similar section in our resource called Why the World. Those of you who work with Why the World will probably see some similarity with this Vox Pop section, right? When people, thank you, yeah, Vox Pops. So when people, real people, different accents, which is a great advantage because students get used to hearing different Englishes, right? So there are other kinds of English than the standard, Royal Queen's English. All right. And again, if we have people here who have never seen Vox Pops in Wider World, and have not seen focus blogs yet, so let's just watch a piece of this focus vlog, and the task for you here is the following. So watch this video. People will answer like some questions. The question is, which grammar you think is practiced in this particular vlog? All right. Now let me switch on the video. And so which grammar is practiced?
Hello, my name's Jessica. Every week I go out and interview people in the street and put the video on my vlog. Today I'll be asking people in the street about attractions in London. Have you done anything interesting in London recently?
Well, I recently went to see the Lion King musical at one of the theatres in West End, and that was pretty exciting. I went with my girlfriend, so that was a nice day out. And then we went to the Harry Potter exhibition in the area as well, so that was good.
Recently? Well, I just went to Carnival actually. I went to Carnival not yesterday, the day before, on the Monday. That was a great day.
Last week we went to see a musical.
I see the answers.
Which was really good.
Great.
What did you like about it?
And that's so it's not the end yet. Okay. So I'll get back to the slides. All right. Thank you very much. Well done. Yeah, it's more than present perfect. So it's present perfect. Past simple here. All right. So let's just see what the book says, because this vlog is linked to this particular lesson. By the way, I've taken that from Focus 2, which is pre-intermediate, A2+, the level. And here, so this particular lesson, thank you very much. All correct answers. It's present perfect and past simple. Actually, this is the lesson. It's packed. Lots of things to do in this lesson. Focus block is suggested here at the end. It's like a reminder to the teacher that, well, there is a focus block, and it's like the reference is to the end of the book, page that. And again, it's flexibility. If a teacher thinks that students will benefit from that, if there is time, if, for example, me as a teacher, I plan to spend, not to rush, but to spend 2 lessons on this particular topic, I think it's just great to have videos like that before asking students to do something more personalized, right? So this is, by the way, a wonderful photo. I loved it. It's Kiev funicular. And after watching something like we've just seen, students are better prepared to discuss something like this. Have you done anything exciting in your town recently? What did you do? How did you feel? And so on. So nice models. You could even, just write some useful phrases from focus block on the board, keep it on the board while students are doing their personalized speaking tasks. I think it's a great addition to this new version of Focus. But its focus blocks are something more than just grammar in context and speaking models. So there is more to this lesson, and I will explain why. Do you see this bright, colorful diagram here? Right? By the way, do you know how we call these diagrams, like circles divided into sections? They're quite popular. Used for pie chart. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a pie chart. Very good, especially I'm a visual learner, right? So it's good to see like statistics with the help of a pie chart. So here is a task for your students who will work with this particular page of the focus block, and the task goes like this. In groups, write a survey about your classmates' preferences, and now the most important thing, present your findings using a pie chart. So it's something not really connected with language, and it's something which falls here into another like subsection of this lesson, which is called life skills. It's something we didn't have in the previous edition of Focus, and I absolutely loved this section when I saw it, Focus on life skills, which actually is like the ending of this Focus block lesson. This particular topic is like they even write which life skills are developed with the help of this particular task: creativity, teamwork, communication. And I think your students will love doing that. Some more examples of how life skills are developed in this book. Collaboration, communication, digital skills. It's another focus block. It's another lesson. Look at this task. So organize a survey, collect data about your classmates. Now look, use an online survey builder to organize an online survey. And I Googled, and well, it's easy to find something like this, free online survey tools. I'm sure your students will handle it easily, so it's not a big problem for them. And so tasks like this is A, something which your students will enjoy doing, and B, it's something which will be handy when, for example, for their future workplace and when employment. Another example, I love when statistics is presented in such a way. It's called infographics. It's a combination of visuals and numbers. And another task, for example, from Focus, another example from this section, Focus on Life Skills, students are asked to either draw the infographics about a certain statistics about their group, or again use an online tool. and again, I just Googled like free infographic makers. There are plenty of them. And well, perfect, I think, for this new generation of students, digital skills. If you, well, thank you very much. People use it, thank you. And I just couldn't help sharing this with you. Have you ever heard of something which is called Europass? Me never. So I've never just heard it before. Focus. Actually, again, this is something which comes with the task in the book. Students are asked to read about Europass CV. That's what I did as soon as I came across this task. I just Googled Europass CV. And then I learned that there is this service. It's available online. It's like it was started by some European Union countries. So there is this online template for a CV, which is standardized for European countries, and people use it. So they fill in the CV online. If they're looking for a job in another country and so on. Europass also gives information about this language portfolio and stuff. So it's something very relevant to students' life, because very often our students go to study abroad. They go and just try to find some work abroad, right? And again, it's a very good model. So they see a standard CV with all fields which should be there. I think it's just perfect, and it's all in one place. So you as a teacher don't need to look in just different ways where to find this information for your students. Okay, so once again, Focus vlog, a wonderful lesson, real people, streets of London, they answer different real questions, plus a wonderful new section called life skills, which again, so you will enjoy, I'm sure, and your students will enjoy it as well. Okay, so we've already had a look at these new things which appeared in this new edition of Focus. I've mentioned new wonderful BBC lessons, video lessons, right? Focus vlogs, which appear to be more than just vlogs, Focus vlogs with life skills development. One more thing which I must mention here, even more exam practice in this new edition of Focus. Focus has always been a very exam-oriented resource. I know people who prepare lots of students for international exams and they use Focus, okay? So I know teachers who prepare students for ZNO, and they say that it's enough to have a book like Focus with the same task types, which will prepare like for all 4 parts of ZNO. But in this new edition of Focus, there is even more exam practice, which I think is really good. So if you remember, those of you who work with Focus probably remember that this is the contents, like pages of the Focus, any course of any level of Focus. Every skills lesson, like listening, reading, does contain sections which are called exam Focus, which work with exam task types. There are some exam tips, and there is a nice chance for a teacher to stop, analyze the task, analyze. That's what I do with students. Well, of course, we do the task. We like sort out which answers are correct, which are not correct. Then we look, for example, and try to find the distractors in those tasks, or it's very useful to work with these tasks together with students and let them find the paraphrased correct information, and so on. So there are loads of like exam tasks like this in Focus. Writing lessons are really good. But what's new, absolutely new, we didn't have it in the previous edition of Focus, is this new lesson type which is added to every unit of Focus, which is called Use of English. There is lots of Use of English material in Focus, like all parts of it, at the end of the book, in the workbook. In all lesson kinds, you can easily find Use of English tasks. Well, you know this, gapped texts with options. But from now on, there is a separate lesson which is called Use of English. And, well, I think it's great. So it's absolutely wonderful. But what's even more important, it's not just exam practice. It's, again, the content is so interesting, so it just adds, you know, value to these lessons. For example, this particular lesson, again, this is Focus 2, pre-intermediate level, a new lesson, which is called Use of English, and the context in which, you know, just the information appears is given through this. Look, students are asked to discuss a film, real film. Actually, I have not seen it, but I will, for sure. I want to watch this film. Some of my colleagues say it's wonderful. Maybe you have seen it. The film is called Hidden Figures. And, well, imagine the start of the lesson. So before doing the boring exam prep, well, stuff, working with Use of English tasks, you start with something like this. Some of your students probably know the film. Some of them don't. You can show them, I don't know, 1 minute of this film, making them actually want to watch it later at home. The film is about, it's based on a true story. And this woman here, Katherine Johnson, she worked for NASA as a human computer. She was a math genius, and she could do incredible calculation, you know, in her head without any computers, just helping NASA's space program. So it's just, I think, absolutely fantastic. So this is the context in which we approach the topic of exam preparation. Your students will love it. Then, of course, the traditional stuff we look at here in this particular lesson. It's about linkers, time expressions, very typical for ZNO, all these things for the Use of English part of ZNO. And we finish the lesson, since it's a proper lesson, with production. It's a personalized task when students are asked to finish sentences about them. Then they work in pairs, trying to figure out whose sentence is false, whose sentence is correct, or like true. I think it's a very valuable, you know, just addition to this new Focus course, because, well, it's more than just, again, exam prep. It's engaging student context, which is extremely important for modern teenagers. Those of you who work with them will probably agree. So they need to be engaged all the time. If they're not interested, it's difficult to teach them anything. They just stop listening. All right, so even more exam preparation. And finally, one final thing. I always loved Focus for its freshness and its real factual, like up-to-date content. In this new edition, it's even better and fresher and even more up-to-date. Just a couple examples from me. Do you remember we spoke about generations today, like different categories of generations. So X, Y, Z. Now, there are some facts I didn't know before. I learned from this new edition of Focus. And let's check if you know the answers, okay? Just a very brief quiz, general knowledge quiz. Facts which I learned from Focus. So 3 generations. Generation X, it's like people in their late 40s, 50s. Generation Y, people in their 30s. All right, and Generation Z, like our students, let's say. So, which generation are called the selfie generation? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Y, Z, 3, the selfie generation. Ready to see the answer? Here it is. It's Generation Y. It's actually when selfies are not as cool now as they were some years ago. It's now, they are around, so everybody does that. But probably, you know, some, I don't know, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, it was the thing, right? Which generation, this was one was interesting for me, often feel lonely. They feel lonely more often than other people. Z3? How do you know? I was surprised. That's right, because they seem to be so connected with the rest of the world virtually, unfortunately, right? And according to statistics, it's about these levels of depression and unfortunately even suicide rate. So, interesting. So, be careful and watch your students. Okay, which generation have FOMO? I've never seen this abbreviation before, tell you the truth. So it's actually fear of missing out. So they need to always be in the loop and be informed and know everything what's happening around. The answer here is 2, Generation Y. Okay, and so on. This particular information comes, actually in Focus, it's a reading lesson. It's a proper reading lesson. But again, the context is wonderful. So you can develop it into anything you want. Speaking after reading, writing, creating something new, whatever, just great. And by the way, one more thing. I think that's great. Here, if we look at the reading text, they are built in such a way that it can be turned into jigsaw reading. So we have some short text, not one huge text, about one topic, which is very useful and, you know, gives you more variance about how to work with that in the classroom. One more thing. Have you seen this word before? Fudukate. It's so funny and cute. Fudukate. Actually, never. So same here. But some people see here that it's an incredible and life-changing app. Well, our students know more about apps than us, I guess. So it appears that Fudukate is one of the most popular and famous health apps, which actually, they say, helps you stay fit and healthy and so on. Strava, have you seen this? So it's another app which I'm sure your students know about. I didn't. So, but actually this information is from this unit. It's a vocabulary spread. So every unit in Focus starts with a vocabulary lesson. But the context here is apps to keep you fit. So actually they are real apps. I just Googled, checked, they exist. People use them, like Fudukate, Strava, and so on. And you see that this is one of the things which people always like about Focus. The target vocabulary is highlighted in different ways here. See, some words are in red, some words are highlighted, something is underlined. So vocab lesson through such a wonderful context, real. Any idea what this strange thing can be about? I've never seen it before. It's called the Smoke-Free Tower. And it's the invention of course, Chinese scientists, because they have a huge problem with smog. Actually, it's now a big problem in Kiev as well. So there is this strange misty air here almost every other day. They keep saying it's fog. We have doubts. All right, so the smoke-free towers were invented in China. They like purify air. But now they become more and more popular in some European cities as well. I know that Holland starts buying them actually, and putting around in their towns and cities and so on. Again, so it's a reading lesson, but here the context is thought-provoking, very relevant, and just great. Social media, everywhere, it's a part of their life, it's a part of their brain, the teenager's brain. But here is a fact which I learned, which I think is disturbing. It shocked me a little bit. I will share this information with you. So it's from Focus. Now, a task to you. A new study has found that 1 in how many, you think, young people wakes up in the night to send or check messages, because it's kind of, well, it's not healthy. 1 in 5, 1 in 15, 1 in 50. 15, see? Are you ready to see the answer? Are you sure? 5. And sometimes, 1 in 5, even if it's 1 in 10, I think it's shocking. It means they're so dependent on this thing. I'm sure parents don't even know about this, but that's a part of their life. And again, so this piece of information comes from this writing lesson in Focus. There is this writing model, it's about writing a blog or something, but the context is, yes, social media. Is it making you lose sleep? So does it make it like less happy and so on? Something very relevant to how they live. Okay, I guess that's it. I can continue like speaking for a long time about Focus, because I'm sure you will love this resource. It's absolutely great. So once again, this new edition of Focus has 100% new vocabulary and reading lessons. So they've updated the content, so it's even more up to date. All texts are new and vocab context are new. Absolutely new use of English lessons, which we didn't have in the previous edition of Focus, which you will enjoy, and your students as well. New BBC video support, which we didn't have before, and not just BBC documentaries, but Focus vlogs, you remember that? And new digital solutions. So Focus, this new edition of Focus is available in there are 2 options. The first one is more classical, when you have a standard paper course book, like student's book, and a paper workbook, which they use at home. But at the same time, students have this Pірсон Practice English app, which they use like with their mobile phone, for example. And there is the second option for digital lovers, when you work with the course book in the class and students do homework online, so through online practice. So there is this course book with a scratch code, and students usually like it. And teachers love it as well, because if you use this blend, it means you don't actually have to check their workbooks, because the system checks it for you. So there is this automatic grading system. So, and again, online app which students can download and use. If you want to be the first people in Ukraine who will get hold of Focus as soon as we have all the levels here in Ukraine, because right now we have just a couple of samples. So we're still waiting for Focus to officially arrive. I think it will soon happen. So if you want to be the first to learn the news about this wonderful resource, there is this link which you can see here on the slide. You can take a photo or you can make this print screen, keep it. So if you go there, you will see some more information about Focus. You can also fill in this form and you will be updated about, well, our news which concern Focus. There is also our Facebook page. Do follow just the news. We've got lots of information on Facebook, and well, just don't forget about Facebook. And one more thing before I say goodbye, so we sometimes forget to mention that. So everybody will receive a certificate for watching us today. Just a little bit of patience. You'll get them, check your mailboxes within a week. So it's Wednesday today, so try to wait until next Tuesday or next Wednesday, because our marketing department, they're quite busy, but so within a week you'll get your certificates. And please do check the spam boxes. Sometimes information from the internal can go to the spam box, so make sure you check it as well. Thank you very much. Once again, a reminder about another webinar this Friday from my colleague Yulia Kianets. If you want to learn what High Note is about, if you're still undecided about which resource to choose for all the teenagers, do watch the webinar to know what's happening in the ELT world and what new trends are. Thank you all. I will stay here for another minute. Probably if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, then have a nice evening, and I do hope to see you at some of our events sometime soon. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thanks. Yes, you can buy it next year. I guess we are expecting to have Focus new edition here in Ukraine for our customers, clients to buy at the start of 2020. So let's just survive the new year and Christmas and all these holidays. And as soon as we get back to work after that, we'll have more information on the availability of Focus second edition here in Ukraine. Keep in touch. Somebody mentioned the word store. Yeah, it's yet another little thing which, makes this resource work, when all the words are kept in one place and actually can be revisited. That's what I love personally about WordStorm. And it extends the vocabulary lessons in Focus. All right. So my moderator is sending you some links and helping me with answers. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Once again, have a great evening, and hope to have you here sometime soon. don't forget about the webinar on Friday. Thank you and have a great evening.